Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We're continuing what we began for the last 2 days of this week, for the first 2 days of this week, and the previous 2 days. And that is, we're learning in Likuti Torah, a book from the Alter Rebbe, about what is God and what are the Jewish people and what are the commandments and what is the Torah and what is it all about? What does it all mean? Especially, why was man created? What's the purpose of man? And how this is reflected every New Year's. Jewish New Year's is when man was created. First man was created 5,786 years ago. Exactly. 1 second. Through the date. And I mean, to make it clear, we were all there. We were all there. Adam included souls of all humanity that will come after him. So we were basically all there. So, but the Jewish people are the only ones that celebrate this day when man was created. And even more, they say that man was created for a purpose. And even more, when man decided he just wanted to do whatever he wanted to, so that was tragedy. That was just in the first day of creation, a few hours after he was created. So we're here to fix this up. The first person to realize that God wants us to serve him and not think about ourselves, but to think about our task in the world, namely to correct the world, fix up the world. That was Abraham. It was about 2,000 years after Adam. And now Abraham passed that down to the Jewish people. And we Jewish people are, first of all, trying to get it to go together on our own, but ideally to convince the whole world to follow in our footsteps and fix the world up. That's the idea of the sounding of the shofar. But first, let's give charity. Talking is very good, but talking does not fill our stomachs with food. There we go. Charity does. Now, we've just learned yesterday what happens when you sound the shofar. It says we have to make God a king. So there's three things that are mentioned in the what's called the additional prayer of Rosh Hashanah, the Musaf prayer of Rosh Hashanah, and that is we say three blessings, three additional blessings. One, it makes God is that we ask that God he should be a king. We make God a king, and the one is that God should remember us. Malchut and Zichronot. And the third one is that God should listen to the shofar. It's called Malchut, Zichronot, and Shofar. Three blessings that are added to the extra prayer, the additional prayer of Rosh Hashanah. It's called Musaf prayer of Rosh Hashanah. So first of all, we're saying, God, be a king. What does it mean to be a king? So the Rebbe explained, that's what we just finished. That through God's being a king, that's the aspect of God which creates the whole world. And it creates all time, and it creates all being, and it creates everything constantly. It creates everything constantly from nothing. And it creates everything constantly, but we don't see God creating us. That's a king. A king is hidden from the people. It's hidden from the people. We want to make the king, to coronate the king, first of all, that God continues being a king. That is, people will listen to him. And also, that God should continue creating the world as it is, and also that we want to be his servants. We want God to be our king, and that we should be his servants. That's the first thing we pray for when we sound the shofar, because that's basically what was Adam was created for, to make God a king, and that we should be his servants. And God purposely created us in a way that we have to work hard in order to realize this, to do this. Okay. And afterwards, I mean, you might say that's pretty strange, but basically everything is like that. Education is necessary. Education is necessary, right? Very rare is a person that he can, he's just born a natural, whatever it is, pianist or violinist or whatever. They have to learn from someone. They have to see someone, be inspired. Same thing as no one's naturally born serving God. You have to work on yourself. Work on yourself means basically that you're never going to get angry about anything, and you're never going to be depressed. And if you are, you get out of it in 1 second, because you know that God is with you. These are things you really have to work hard at. Okay. Then afterwards, we say prayers of Zichronot. Now, each one of these three additional prayers that's in the Musaf prayer, what do the prayers consist of? 10 sentences from the Bible to prove our point, to prove. First of all, 10 sentences from the Bible to prove that God said himself that he's going to be a king. We have to make him a king. So if he writes it in the Bible, so to speak, that forces his hand. God said it. And now we're bringing 10 sentences that say that God remembers. Okay, what does it mean that God remembers? And then after that, we say 10 sentences to say that God listens to the shofar. That we'll get to later. Afterwards, we say zichronot. Afterwards, we say on Rosh Hashanah, the birthday of man, the birthday of us. What do we say? We ask God to remember us. Kadei, in order, sheyaleh, that it should go up. Get this in the middle over here. There you go. Sheyaleh zichronchem, your memory, the remembrance of you, your thought, the tova, for good, lefanai, in front of me. That's what God says. Okay, now you realize when God created the world, number one thing he forbade was idolatry. Idolatry means thinking that any creation is God. That any creation is God. It says, and there's a midrash that says that when man was created, that all of the animals and all the angels, etc., they said, let's worship Adam. He was like the highest of the creation, so they thought he was God. So Adam said, no, let's go and worship God. He's created me also. So that's the purpose of man, is to realize that there's God. Huh? But this is against nature, human nature. I'm sorry. This is against human nature. And human nature is that you don't have to worship anything. You just worship yourself. Worship yourself, or you think you're the most important thing in the world. It says, but God purposely created it that way. He created it that way that we should feel far away from him. And so to speak, we are also far away from God. That's what we're saying. Perish, what does it mean? For instance, a zichron, when a person remembers something, you have to remember on something. And we're asking God to remember us. What does that mean? When you say, God, remember us, this seems to make God into a person. Well, that's what I wanted to say, yeah. So God made it in the big problem here. We cannot worship a person, no matter how high that person is. The person is a manifestation of God, the Son of God, the ghost of God. You're not allowed to worship a person. Not allowed to. But on the other hand, God acts like a person. God talks, God responds, God gets angry. So we're asking God, please, God, act more like a person. Be more in touch with us. Don't remove yourself from us. If you remove yourself from us, as soon as we think that you're far away, we're going to start worshiping people or spirits or ghosts or the levels, angels. So it says the memory, that's what we're supposed to say. God, please remember us. Come closer. Remember us. Remember us is only relevant to something that's far away from you, or in place, or in time, or in level, right? Like a king, please remember your groveling subjects. Then, Shayach Lomar al Zeh, Lashon Zichron. Please remember us. Don't forget us. She yizkor love that God should remember us, v'lo yishkach milibo, and take it out from his heart, which is not case when a dover. So one person has to remember another person when that other person is far away, or a long time ago, or whatever, or just unimportant. The person is just an unimportant thing, right? You say, you king, you elect a president. President, don't forget about us, right? Don't leave us out. Don't forget about us. If something is right next to him, then it's in front of you, then you don't have to remember it. Good morning. So why are we saying zichronos in the Musaf prayer of Rosh Hashanah? Why are we asking God, please remember us? And we bring 10 sentences from the Torah to prove that God has to remember us. What does it mean? God is not far away from us, is he? He said, well, yeah, he sort of is. Why? Yuvan Lamayel, we can understand this. When we say about God, zichronenu, please God remember us. Who mipenei? Why? I mean, God is creating us. So obviously we're not far away from him. How can we say, God, please remember us, when obviously God is intimately connected to every human being? He's creating us, he's enlivening us, he provides us. We're saying, yeah, he's close to us, but in a very external way. Listen to this. Be'emes chayos kol olam, really, yes, true, God enlivens us and God creates us, but don't get too familiar with God. The fact of the matter is that God enlivens us and he creates us, almost tachtonim, whether we're talking about the physical worlds or the upper worlds, be'emet, really they are, kamei yisbrech, in front of God, they are kalo mamish, they're like nothing. Katipa me'unkris, like a little drop of water from the Pacific Ocean. And of course, that's just, how do you say, how do they call it? There's a word for that. Anyway, it's just so that we'll understand it. But really, it's like, how many zeros do you have to have in order to make $1? Right? No matter how many zeros, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, then how many zeros do you have to make $1,000? How many zeros to make $1 million? That doesn't make any sense. How many zeros to make infinite amount of money? Oh, that's a stupid question. Well, it's more stupid to say that we have some sort of a relationship with God. Because 0 and 1 million, they're both in the same category as mathematics. And we and God are not in the same category at all of existence at all. No way. It's just that God creates us. But it doesn't mean in any way that we have any relationship, even the relationship of 0 to infinity. We have no way possibly of comprehending God. It's like trying to explain the calculus to a rock. You understand? Well, there's more. It's more, how do you say, meaningless. Sorry, it's more meaningful to say I can explain calculus to a rock than to say that you can explain God to us. Because a rock and calculus, they're both in the world. But God creates the world, he creates everything. So the fact of the matter is that the world, yes, God is close to us and he creates us, but we have to remember that God creates us. In order to create us, he uses this amazing power of concealment and hiding and veils and tzimtzum, whatever. So it's infinite levels of nothing that God uses one after the other in order to create us. And we're like the ultimate nothing. But on the other hand, somehow or other, we're important to God. We're important to him. Therefore, it says, because the whole life of all the worlds just comes from one little thought of God that rose up in his mind. Now, of course, we're talking here in terms of metaphors because God is ultimate reality. We have no idea what this means. God is not spiritual. He creates the spiritual. But for some reason, he cares about us. And we're asking God, please care a little bit more about us. Because the whole entire world is like nothing in front of God. Lios hitavut atzilut ha'olamot, in order to emanate the worlds, even the highest worlds. This is called just one little thought that rose up in his mind. Is called machshava hagaduma. What God thought in the beginning to create the world. This is not, has nothing to do with time. This has nothing to do with time. God created time that's at a much, much lower level. You were talking of before time existed. So that's God's thought. God's thought, that was what created all the worlds. It's like let's take an example with us. One thought regarding all of your soul, right? Just think about it yourself, right? How old are you? You're 20 years old, you're 30 years old. Tell me one thought that you thought 15 years ago at exactly 1, 15, and 30 seconds. Okay, if you don't tell me, then I'm going to have to take that thought away from you. So what do I care what you do? That makes no sense. A little thought, it means nothing, no connection to me. It says, well, the fact of the matter is this whole entire world, all of the worlds, they come from like one little thought of God. And that's just an example to get us into thinking and understanding how far away God is, but really God is infinitely further than that. So what are we doing on Rosh Hashanah? Shechozer Akol, when everything goes back to beginning, like it was when God created the world. Right? Rosh Hashanah is celebrating the grand finale of the world being created. That's when man was created. So Rosh Hashanah, when everything goes back to its source, therefore we're requesting God, Sheyizkar al Machshava, remember that first thought that you had. Sha'oltalo, that rose up in your thought, Atzilas Olam, to emanate the worlds. Remember, you had a good purpose in wanting to create the worlds. It wasn't you were just bored. And the worlds are very important to you. That's why it arose up in your thought. Please, God, remember that thought. Put emphasis on that thought, why you created the world. Remember, you created the world from pure love. Because the world is like nothing. And nothing is compared to God. And therefore we request, remember us, God. Remember, God, you're the one that created the world. You began the whole creation. You remember you're creating everything right now. Remember that even though we're sinning and we're doing bad, that's because we forgot. But don't you forget. God, please put your interest back into that thought that you had in the beginning when you created the world unconditionally. We want to see a little bit of that right now. That's what it says. Remember what you did. We created the world. This is in our prayers. And that God remembers what it is in the world, and he visits, he visits, he examines, visits, call Yitzur, every single creation. So God visits every one of his creations, every little bug and every little atom and every little list. How much more so every human being? How much more so every human being? Every Jew is that God takes him in account, visits him again. How are you doing? Right? How are you doing? Just doesn't create us in the mechanical way that seems to be nature. That God goes outside of nature and he remembers that reason why he created the world. That were very, very important in his mind to remember that. Okay, that's the second blessing of the Musaf prayer, that God should remember. Don't be far away, make yourself close. But the third one is Shofar. The third one is we bring 10 sentences from the Torah. When I say 10 sentences from the Torah, really, if you can break that down, there's 3 sentences from the 5 books of Moses. It comes out to be 4 sentences from the 5 books of Moses, and 3 sentences from the prophets, and 3 sentences from the writings, mostly from Psalms. It comes out to be 10 sentences. We bring 10 sentences, proof, so to speak, to force God to be a king, to force God to be to remember us. And now we're saying we're forcing God to listen to the Shofar. How can we force God? Because God wrote it in the Torah. God himself wrote it down. He wrote it in the Torah. This is not that I'm telling God what I think he should do. I'm telling what he thought he should do. God himself wrote it in the Torah. So you bring the proofs from the Torah. God, you can't deny that. God, you have to remember us. God, you have to be a king. And the third one is you have to listen to the shofar. Okay. Now here we have a very weird thing in Judaism. In one way, it's the most important day of the year. We're declaring that God should be a king. Every Jew is supposed to make 100 blessings every day. Huh? Did you know that? Every Jew is supposed to say 100 blessings every day. Ma Hashem sha'al mimach. Don't say what, ma elomea. You have to make 100 blessings every day. What are the blessings? Every blessing starts off the same way. Blessed are you, God, or thank you, God, King of the universe, Melech Olam. You are the king of. When do we really give the power for all of the blessings, the whole entire year, right? 365 days of the year. Multiply that by 100. What do you got? You got 36,000 blessings we make every year. The power we make, the power to make these blessings comes from this day. Rosh Hashanah, when we make God a king, we coronate God. So this is a very important day. Very important day. So you think on this day that the rabbi would like sing some sort of a song or do some sort of a sacrifice or say a speech, a tremendously deep speech, or maybe give tremendous sums of money or do something. What do? We take a person, it's supposed to be an important person, and he takes the horn of a sheep and he sounds the horn, which it has nothing really to do with a human being, right? A human being. You could train a monkey to do that. You've got monkey. how does that show the essence of man, our connection to God, our requesting that God should remember us and be our king, right? We take a horn and we blow it. Imagine going into a business interview and he says, I would like to see your portfolio. And you pull out a little, you go like that. Say, very nice. Don't call us, we'll call you. Right? No, this is what God wants. God wants us to sound the shofar. So the shofar is very important to God. It's very good. Okay, first of all, it's a commandment. So if God would command us to eat potatoes, then that would also have an effect. But he chose a shofar because a shofar is a special, how do you say, the message in it, the shofar. The shofar. It's narrow on one side, it's wide on the other side. We'll see. But most important, it makes these sounds. And one sound is a straight sound called a tekiah, do. And another one is a shvorim, do, do, do. And another one is a trua, do, 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 do. These sounds have some sort of a very special, if you want to call it Kabbalistic. I don't like to use that word because it seems to imply that Judaism is some sort of a, some sort of a trick, some sort of a, parlor trick or something like that. Watch what I can do, right? It pulls a rabbit out of the hat. That's a pretty good trick. No, I created that rabbit. Okay, so we're talking about the shofar, though, has deep spiritual, essential effect on God. How so? But no, okay, now it's also not enough just to sound the shofar. We also have to say these 10 sentences. And it's explained in the Chassidut that in some ways these 10 sentences are higher than the shofar. Well, let's get to it. Here we go. Okay, how do we make God a king? How do we make God remember? We request, but also we have to sound the shofar. In a shofar, this whole idea of the shofar is kol pashut, a straight, simple sound. Shenimshach mihevel alev, and was drawn from the wind of the heart, from the wind of the heart, your breath, right? Breath. Now, breath comes from your lungs, right? But it's instigated by your heart. Instigated by your heart. A person, for instance, that's very depressed, he doesn't talk. He's not inspired to bring a sound out. Yeah, whatever. That doesn't. Song is supposed to come from the heart. From the heart. Hevel alev, it says. Emotions, that's what pushes the person to speak. We're talking about not just breathing. We're talking about emotions. Coming to speak. That's why they have in America, they have these big contests. There's all these programs. Singer, this guy can sing like this, guy can sing like that. Like this. They get some person up there that knows how to play violin, that he's practiced, like 20 years, and he can play, amazing violin. Okay, it's nice, very nice. And some person never practiced a day in his life, right? And he stands up and says, "Some enchanted evening," and they go, "Oh, this is everyone's crying and they're all weeping. This was so beautiful," because one comes from the person, from the wind of his heart, from the wind of his heart. And very few people understand the violin, understand this, but everybody understands it. They told me that there's a person, what was his name? Can't remember. Anyway, he's a concert violinist. What's his name? Webb or something. He went into the subway and he played violin, right? And people gave him and at the end of the day, after he played for an hour, he got $20 or something like that, which is doing okay, right? And this same person, if he would appear, his violin is worth $5 million, right? And he plays in a concert, people are going crazy. But those are people who can really appreciate it. A voice, everybody appreciates. The most simple people in the world appreciate, because a voice is something human to it. I don't know, now with AI, who knows what's going to be, but a voice has something human to it. This comes from the Hevel alev. So that's the same thing as the shofar. The shofar somehow is the voice of man, but above human. It's above human. We'll see. It's not like speech. Speech is letters. Speech are letters that are drawn from the person's brain. Because the words of speech, letters of speech, are drawn from thought. The letters of thought are drawn from intellect. Which is not the case, just a voice. Nimshach comes from Hevel alev, it comes from the heart. This is above understanding. Now, in many ways, the heart is something that's irreplaceable. Right now, they have computers and things like that, right? Artificial intelligence. You can do things with a computer you can do with your mind, but you can't do things with a computer that you can do with your heart. A computer cannot express love. It cannot express care, interest, friendship, courage. Those things come from your heart. He believed because in the heart, there's two levels of your heart. Chitzonius b'penimiut, external heart that you use day to day, and penimiut, and the inside of your heart, that's like things where you suddenly, all your money that you worked for, everything, you're willing to give everything away. The inside of your heart, something that touches the inside of your heart, you're willing to throw away your life. Hine, behold, chitzoniut alev, the external heart, this is below understanding. This receives from understanding. Like it says, according to what a person understands, that's how he praises. In this course, we're talking about God. The more you understand about God, how good God is, how close God is, how wonderful God is, how God creates the world, your emotions are awakened according to your awareness of God. That's one type of emotions. Kanota, like it's known. So you're explained, why you should vote Republican, why you should do this, why you should join the army, why you should do this. You're explained these things, why you should buy this type of car, that type of car, and you come to like it, you come to understand it. You come to understand it, and from your understanding comes emotions. Emotions, but these type of emotions, that's only the external of your heart. You can change your mind. That's called ratzon tachton. It's called your lower will. That's what's called the arousal of the heart. Hanolad, which is born, the nimshach, and comes from what's called contemplation of your mind. You start to think in your mind, right? Everybody says that, that's whatever it is, the famous Othello, right? You ever read Othello? It's a play by Shakespeare, play of Shakespeare, and in it, one person, an evil guy, he convinces someone to be jealous of his wife. He brings him all sorts of proofs and all sorts of this. He starts to think, and the person can't think for himself, and therefore he's filled with jealousy just because of the ideas that somebody else put into his mind. And then he starts to think to himself, he realizes, wow, I made a mistake, right? That was too late, and the play is too late. But this is emotions that come from intellect. It's something, so to speak, that's external to you. But the inside of the heart, this is the upper will. It doesn't come from intellect at all. How can you get inspired by something you don't understand? This is this comes from life itself. That's what it says. Levavi, my heart. It says Chur Levavi, King David said. It means there's two hearts. We say also you should have to love God with both of your hearts. There's two hearts. The external heart and the inside of the heart. Inside of the heart. Simply speaking, the external part of the heart is talking about something you have to be convinced of. And the internal part of the heart is talking about something that you are. You are. Right? You don't have to be convinced that you exist. You don't have to be convinced that you exist. Therefore, somebody pulls a gun out on you, you have to say, listen, you know what that gun means? It means that there's a bullet inside, you're going to get killed. And these things are, so I get killed. So what does that mean? Right? A person doesn't say that. I'm going to get killed, he's going to kill me. Maybe he doesn't understand what it means to be killed. But as soon as a person realizes he's threatening me, that's above understanding. Then he's willing to give all of his money, he's willing to give everything he worked for his whole life. Right? Someone in his family is threatened. He's willing to give everything he has to save that person, right? Well, says the Rebbe, that also is not the essence of the heart. The true essence of a heart in the Jew is his connection to God. Why? Because it's not something you have to understand. It's something that's already there. It's already there. But all of Hasidut Chabad is talking about convincing you and bringing reasons to love God, to fear God. So that's already using your intellect. Says the Rebbe, right? That's really called the external heart. That's not truly your internal heart. The essence of your heart, that's for a Jew means I am a Jew. I'm willing to give my life for my Judaism. And I don't want to bring this up too many times because I know I brought it up 100 times before, but I saw in a video, they were interviewing these people in New York, Jews for Hamas. Jews for Hamas. Okay, not to get into political about it, but I mean, that's, Hamas is just pure death, it's just pure evil. It's just purely bad. Truly bad. But one thing for sure about Hamas is that they're not in favor of Torah and not in favor of commandments and not in favor of the Jewish people, and they're not in favor of anything Jewish whatsoever. And these people identify with them. We're for Hamas. So here we have Jews, and it's written Jews for Hamas, right? Jews for Hamas. And these Jews, they don't have any connection with Torah. They're against the commandments. They're against the land of Israel and the Jewish people and everything that is. But they have Jew written. Jew is written on their Jew is written. They won't leave that. They won't deny the fact that they're Jews. In some ways, that's more of an expression of Judaism than what I do with commandments. I'm doing commandments. I have all these reasons to be Jewish. It's a good thing. It's an expression. And these people have absolutely no reason to write that they're a Jew. Absolutely no reason. Everything a Jew stands for, they're against. But they are Jews. And they'll fight for that being a Jew. If I go up to them and say, you're not a good Jew, who are you to tell me? It's important to them. It shows that it touches in something that's above understanding. That's called the essence of the heart. That's called the essence of the heart. Okay, there it touches it to a degree that maybe it's not revealed. That's what Mashiach will do. That's why there's hope for Mashiach. Because every Jew, no matter what, that inner point of the heart, that he says Jews for Hamas. The Hamas part of it is bad, but the Jews part of it is above good. It's above all, right? It's totally incomprehensible. And you can say, no, the reason they're doing it is to show that even Jews are for that. Say whatever you want to, but the fact of the matter is you go to these people and you say, you're not a Jew. Oh, yes, I am. It's just like, that what it says, that your heart can rule over your and the brain can rule over your heart, that your heart can be controlled by your brain. This is talking about the external part of the heart. This comes from intellect, and the brain can rule over it. But Penimus Alev, the inner point of the heart, and here the Rebbe is talking about the inner connection of a Jew to God. All of the logic in the world, once a Jew decides, I'm not going to leave God, then all of the logic in the world cannot stop it. That's the story with Hannah and her 7 sons. And Jews have been giving their lives, right? In the time of the Inquisition, they would say, just, kiss the cross or whatever, and we'll let you go. And the Jews say, of course, I don't want to die. Bring the thing. They brought it in front of me, said, Shema Yisrael, I'm not going to do it. It's idolatry, Shema Yisrael, makes no sense. And that's the essence of what a Jew is. The inside of the Jewish heart, that's higher than the brain. Therefore, the brain receives from the heart. Your heart tells you, the brain, what to do. That's ideally Kiyadua, the Ikar Amazonos, and Balev. And that the main life force of man comes from his heart. That's where blood comes from. The blood comes from the liver, and the heart pumps it through the body. Shemakabel mitztomako, that you eat food, it goes into your stomach, it gets refined over there, the blood goes into the liver, whatever, it becomes refined even further. But the main thing is it goes to the heart. And the heart, the muvchar meichel, the best type of food, it comes blood in the liver, and from it the blood goes to the heart, and to the brain receives from the heart. So the heart is the realm that's really okay. And so what do we see? That the heart in some ways is the most important essence of what a man is. And you can see this very clearly. Maybe now that there's anatomically, you can make a heart transplant. You can't make a brain transplant. So the identity of a person is in his brain, his consciousness. But his emotions, and that in a way is the essence of man, is his emotions. You can get a person that's tremendously intellectual, tremendously smart, and he can be tremendously religious. But his heart all of a sudden tells him to do something, and he'll do it. For good or for the bad. Here we have Yerovam ben Navat. Yerovam ben Navat said was perhaps the greatest, wisest man that ever lived. I don't know if he was wiser than King Solomon, but he came to a good, a close second. He knew everything. When he would learn Torah, it says that the fire was surrounding him. And he was chosen to be a king of Israel. He was talented, he was genius, he was intellectual, everything. He knew the Torah, he was religious, everything. And suddenly he got to be king, and his heart told him, I can't let the people go down to Jerusalem. It's in the lower part of Israel. That's my enemy. And he made 2 golden calves, and he put guards so that people wouldn't go down to Israel. And he made people, convinced everyone to worship idols. And they worshipped idols for 200 years more. So it shows that he knew in his mind what he was doing was wrong, but his heart wouldn't let him go. And there's also the other way around. There's people that are total sinners. I told you the story about Menashe, total opposite good. Oh, they hear the Jews for Hamas, but it could be these people would even give their lives for Judaism. Could be. This straight voice of the shofar, that's the shofar. The shofar, this simple voice, is from the level of the inside of the heart. That's why the person stands up on the podium on the most important day of the year, and he doesn't give a speech, and he doesn't sing a song, and he doesn't do anything human. And he does something which is superhuman. From the essence of his life, his essence of his heart screams out to God. That's the inside of the heart. Like it says, Tzak libam el Hashem, your heart cries out to God. Shetzak at the lev, that the crying out of the heart, this comes from what's called the inside, panemius, the essence of the heart. And it comes out, and it's nolan, and it's born, the sound, because of a hester, a hepech, because of the opposite. When a person is here, like we say, a non-religious Jew, and they say, either you worship go to the church, worship. He's put into this situation when he knows he's leaving Judaism. It could be that he'll say, "I'll give my life. I won't do it." That's what it was in the Crusades and the Inquisition. It's just that nowadays there's so much ignorance. Nowadays that the missionaries can get their fangs into people. We're nice guys. We like you. It used to be that they burn people on the stake. Now they embrace them. They smile and they're this. Right? We love you. We are your friends. But it's the same basic thing. They want to kill your soul. But they do it in a way that you don't feel it. They anesthetize you, so that you don't feel that you're losing Judaism. No, this is Judaism. This is real Judaism. And there's other thing. But as soon as a person feels I'm making a mistake, I'm leaving my Judaism, it could be that he's a person, he could be the Pope. As soon as he realizes, what am I doing? I've denied my creator, I've denied my true identity, then it could be he'll even give his soul. And why will he give his soul? Because he realizes how far he's gotten. And a person like me, that I do Torah and I do commandments and everything, I don't realize how far away I am from God. And the fact is I'm equally as far away from God as anybody else is, because I have no idea what God is. Here, the Rebbe just explained. Right? It's like a rock trying to understand algebra. You can't do it. And we're infinitely further away from God. So we can't understand. But I don't feel it. Why? Because I have Torah, I have commandments, I have my family, I have this. But a person that's totally far away, is only connection to God is the essence of his soul, and he wakes it up. When a person is so far away, that he's very far away from the face of God, Ein Sof Baruch Hu, that because of this, to Gaber Ma'od, there is increased very much in his soul, Hatza'aka, screaming out to God. The Tidgala B'chinas Penimis, then is revealed the inside of the heart. And this inside of the heart is in each and every Jew and is revealed to God. So Rosh Hashanah is the day that we feel how infinitely far away we are from God and how infinitely close we can become by essence of our heart. Above any understanding. And this is what's called the level of a Baal Tshuva. A Baal Tshuva is a person that he returns back to the truth. The Cheli Yoter, it says that they serve God with more power because they're running away from death. And therefore, Omer Azal, the rabbis say, She'en Sadikim, Gamorim, Lochem Lamod, B'makom Mam, that even a tzaddik, total tzaddik, a person who's totally holy and this, can't stand in a place where there is a Baal Tshuva. Why? Because the Baal Tshuva, he is running away from death. He has more desire to serve God. He's coming from a deeper place than a tzaddik is. Because of this great darkness, is there will be the crying out. And that's the whole reason why God put the soul into the body. To make tzaddikim do tshuva. What do you mean to do tshuva? That the tzaddikim should realize that no matter how holy I am, no matter how great I am, no matter how accomplished I am, no matter how pure I am, in front of God, it's the same exact thing as a worm. King David said, "I am a worm. I need tolad v'lo ish." King David said. How can King David say a ridiculous thing like that? That he's a worm, not a person? Because who decided that King David is going to be a human being and not be a worm, and that the worm will be a worm and not King David? Who decided? God decided. So the fact that I have intellect and that I'm a little bit different than a worm and that I can talk, that's only just a miracle. It's a miracle. And it's happening all the time. That's one thing comparing me to a worm, but comparing me to God, the creator, right? The creator. I think I'm infinitely greater than a worm. The fact of the matter is that compared to God, me and a worm are the same. So here I am, a worm, and suddenly I realize how far away I am from God. Right? God made me into a human being. I can realize how infinitely distant I am from what I could be. When a soul is up in heaven, all of the souls were like tzaddikim. They were holy. They were, nourished and pleased from the ziva shekhinah, from the ray of God. That this is Maisa Tzaddikim. That's the Tzaddikim. That everything they do is in order to know God, to get closer. But then that was every soul. But then afterwards, when the soul comes into the body, the nefesh abamis, and it comes into an animal soul, and that becomes your new identity. Naseh b'chinet bal tshuva. Why did God do such a terrible, cruel thing? To put this pure, beautiful soul that was basking in the rays of truth and love and joy of the creator of the universe, and put it into a body where you're not basking in anything. And just basking in your own thoughts and your worries. And why? In order that you, on your own volition, can come out of the darkness. And this is a thing that is, there's no such thing in heaven. Is coming out of the darkness. There's no darkness. Shuv l'mayla, ki yesh master umalim umach, because there's a concealment. The soul conceals. Because of this is the idea of the screaming out of the heart. That's the sound of the shofar. And this we will continue, God willing, tomorrow. God willing, tomorrow. 1 minute. Let's do this here, do this thing here. Oh, what's that? Okay. What am I doing? There we go.